Welcome back to 学域GS 言語科目II. This is our week 5. Starting this week, we are moving into the second cycle of student presentations. In the first cycle of student presentations, we dealt with the representations of food in popular culture. As I announced before, for the second cycle of student presentations, you will need to work on the topic of aging and ageism. In this video, I will explain what aging and ageism mean and give you some examples, including the ones from popular culture. In this video, I will also explain how we are going to proceed our course from week 6 to week 8. In her 2011 book called Age-Wise, age critic Margaret Morgan Ross Gallett says the following. Whatever happens in the body, and even if nothing happens in the body, aging is a narrative. Here, it is interesting that Gallett uses the word narrative in describing what we call aging. When aging is described as a narrative, or in other words, a story, it suggests that aging has a beginning and therefore must also have an end. Employing Gallett's rather metaphorical description of aging as a narrative, we may in general agree that aging is a process from a birth as a beginning and to a death as the end. Furthermore, aging is a process that includes all the experiences we go through as we live our lives from birth to death. In Gallett's metaphorical description of aging, I also want you to notice that Gallett seems concerned with changes that may or may not happen to the body. So, what kind of changes is she talking about here? From birth to death, as we age, our bodies experience various changes. As an obvious example, our bodies become bigger and taller through our childhood. As we enter adolescence, our bodies start to show more changes to some extent, differently from people to people. These experiences of bodily changes through childhood and adolescence are often referred to as growth, and growth is often seen as something positive and happy. However, our bodies do not stay the same all the time. At some point in our lives, our bodies start to decline. For instance, if you were a member of soccer club in high school and hadn't played soccer for a while, when you actually play soccer for the first time in a long time, you may not be able to perform as fully as you might have been able to. Then you begin to feel that you have gotten older and aged and probably think that, もう若くない. The sense of decline starts also with bodily changes. It may be that you cannot lose weight as easily as before, or it may be that you cannot run as fast as you could before. In Age-Wise, Gallett describes decline as follows. Decline is a name I use for the entire system that worsens the experience of aging past youth. It's the opposite of the forces that make living seem a progress worth getting up in the morning for year after year. Historical forces produce waves of decline. We have been enduring a tidal wave. The word decline refers first of all to the major historical forces that have been battling the life course for decades, demonizing and commercializing aging past youth. Compared to her description of aging, her reference to the word decline may sound broader and a bit harder to understand. But let's look at the first statement here, where she compares growth as something worth getting up in the morning for, to decline as the entire system that worsens the experience of aging past youth. It is important to note here that decline is also part of aging, yet what you should not overlook here is that decline is defined as aging past use. In other words, use is a progress worth getting up in the morning for as something positive and fun, whereas decline starts after all those fun parts of use are over. Another important part that I want you to pay attention to is how Gallet uses the word system in describing how it is this system that not only worsens the experience of aging past use, but also creates historical forces that provide waves of decline. Again, Gallet may sound metaphorical here. But please take a look at the second quote in which she says how those historical forces demonize and commercialize aging past use. What she means here is that our notion that experiences of decline is negative or miserable has been historically affected or influenced by our society. In 2004, Galette published a book called Aged by Culture, in which she argues how society and culture as a system that establishes norms of aging that we feel as if we must follow as we grow older. For example, when we enter a university and go home for a long vacation, such as Natsuyasumi or Fuyuyasumi, you may be asked whether you have a boyfriend or girlfriend. It is because when you are 18 or 19 or 20 or more, you are expected to have an interest in someone of your opposite sex. We are under this kind of expectation, or rather, maybe oppression, because our society and culture run on heteronormativity, a belief that heterosexuality is the default, preferred, or normal mode of sexual orientation that all the people should practice. This kind of heteronormative expectation happens because we have been educated and influenced by books, TV, movies, anime, manga, commercials, and all sorts of information we receive as we grow up, that heterosexuality is a default, and when you reach a certain point of your life, you should find a partner, get married, have kids, and have your own family. Then, when there are some people who cannot meet this kind of expectation, those people tend to be looked down in society and sometimes discriminated. So far, we have been focusing on various aspects of aging to understand what it is. On the other hand, in her 2011 book Age-Wise, Galette argues that we should use the word ageism more and more in order to find sources of injustice we experience every day based on our age. She says, for me, the breakthrough came when I decided to try out the word ageism or middle ageism in all the contexts in which we have been instructed to use aging, plus the context in which age critiques might use the phrase being aged by culture. I invented that locution and use it in many contexts. But the material in this book cries out for a term that more forcefully leads us to ask about all the varieties of ageism and that decline system that expose us to them when we are young and enforce them on us as we grow older. So, what is ageism exactly? Ageism is often referred as the third ism. The first ism refers to racism, and the second ism refers to sexism, and the third ism is ageism. Ageism has become one of the most important keywords in the field of gerontology, Ronengaku. The first time ageism was used was back in 1969 when Robert Butler, a leader of National Institute of Aging in the USA, introduced it as a process of systematic discrimination and stereotyping against people based on their old age. Whereas whereas Butler's definition of ageism was concerned about the discrimination and stereotyping against people in old age, Ardman Palmer in 1999 defined ageism as the process of discrimination and negative or positive stereotypes against people belonging to a certain age group. What you should be paying attention to Palmer's definition of ageism is that Palmer has demonstrated that ageism includes both positive and negative stereotypes of people in a certain age group. As an example of positive stereotypes of ageism, or more academically, benevolent ageism, when you talk to an elderly person, you may think that you should always help elder people even if you are not asked for help. Or since it takes time for them to process what they hear, you should talk to elder people very slowly. After hearing this, you may be surprised that ageism has a positive side, but it is not that simple. The example I just gave you demonstrates how people tend to help the elderly people because they believe that the elderly is slow and sometimes helpless and useless. So benevolent ageism also includes negative connotations as well. The other ageism is called hostile ageism. I believe this type of ageism is more familiar with us today. For instance, in an example at workplace where a young person may go through uncomfortable experience when they are given a chance to be promoted to, or when they choose to change a job for better salaries and environment. Another example may be the word we use in our everyday lives, such as wakazukuri. If a woman in their 30s or 40s wear clothes or makeup popular among teenagers or early 20s, she may be criticized as wakazukuri. So ageism is not just about elderly people. In a broader sense, it may also concern younger people and people in their middle age as well. Even in the university setting, you may experience some kind of ageism. In addition, works in popular culture are also filled with lots of examples that deal with various aspects of ageism too. Before I give you some examples of aging and ageism in popular culture, I'm going to explain our schedule for the next 3 weeks. Since it's better to start doing the research for your presentations as early as possible, I need you to start looking for work on which you will focus in your presentation. Therefore, I'm going to ask you to share your interest on web class as a homework assignment, just like we did for the first cycle. In week 6, I will give you some tips on academic writing and presentations. I'm thinking to create another on-demand video. You need to start doing the research for in week 6. In week 7, I'm going to ask you to focus on your preparation for your presentations. Start writing and, if necessary, use the writing center for proofreading your scripts as well. In week 8, students are going to give 5-minute presentations on the representation of aging and ageism in popular culture. If we cannot go back to face-to-face classroom by week 8, let's do presentations on Zoom. Okay, and I've already uploaded the order of presentations on web class as well, so please check it out. In your presentation, you are expected to discuss how a work of popular culture shows aspects of aging and or ageism through the experiences of characters in question. For instance, in music business or entertainment business, in a Netflix documentary film called Miss Americana, a popular singer, Taylor Swift, reveals her anxiety of getting old. She says, "It's a lot to process because we do exist in this society, where women in entertainment are discarded in an elephant graveyard by the time they are 35. What Swift says here not only reveals her anxiety of getting old, but also criticizes the state of ageism in American popular culture. As other examples in American popular culture include actresses such as Meryl Streep and Julianne Moore, there are people in entertainment business whose values become more significant even after they enter their old age. On the other hand, ageism limits how long actors can work in entertainment business as well. What we need to pay attention here is that ageism does not seem to really affect men, but women in particular. So I'll give you an example from a Japanese TV drama called Omameda Toako to Sanin no Moto Otto. In this TV show centers on a female protagonist, Toako, in her middle age, and who went through a divorce 3 times. Living happily as a career woman in the nice apartment with her teenage daughter, Toako seems satisfied with her life, not wanting to seek any romantic relationship anymore because she's too old for romance. Her such way of thinking implies how Toako, as a woman in her middle age, is oppressed by a social norm in Japan that women who have passed a certain age should not be romantic, especially if she has been married before and if she has a kid. This TV drama, however, goes against such a norm and shows that it is okay for someone in her middle age or older to seek love. At the same time, this TV drama also presents a possibility for people in their middle age, regardless of their gender, to seek life choices not limited to marriage as well. And another example that seems to show social oppressions towards aging or aged women in entertainment includes Tokyo Tarareba Musume. So this Tokyo Tarareba Musume was originally Akiko Higashimura's manga series. And this manga series depicts experiences of women in their early 30s trying to find a new romance with a man. In 2017, the manga was turned into a TV drama, and it also centered on women at the age of 30, struggling to overcome their failures in the past, saying repeatedly, "What if I did this? What if I did that?" This TV drama succeeded in showing some aspects of our society's oppression and expectations towards women over 30s, what they should do and what they should not do. What's interesting here is that all their life options and choices are stuck with this notion that everyone should marry, and if they fail to do so, they are not good enough or normal as a woman, especially if you're a woman. So although all the examples that I have given so far have centered on the experiences of women, these expectations can be also found in animation as a form of, in the form of family or marriage. So I believe there will be lots and lots of examples of aging and ageism in popular culture. It doesn't have to be from Japan. You could talk about something from other countries as well. And also, you do not need to focus on how people may get discriminated based on age. You may also discuss the role of older people in Disney movies such as Moana, or maybe you could talk about the role of teenage boys in Japanese seishun eiga too. For next week, I have already created a web class page where you can submit your topic for the second presentation. You need to have a tentative presentation title, the title of the work you choose, or you have chosen, why you are interested in the work of your choice, and the name of one source you have found. We are going to continue online class meetings next week as well, so please send me messages or emails if you have any questions. See you next week. Bye bye.